small, you really have to push the air forcefully through your lips. You know, put you on.
I'm Jeff Seckendorf. There are so many things that call us to big mountains. The thrill, the challenge, the danger. Mount Everest soars past 29,000 feet, over 8,800 meters, and the highest peak in the world has claimed over 200 lives. Besides the cold and accidental falls, altitude sickness may be the most insidious killer. Anywhere above 8,000 feet, 2,500 meters, the effects of diminished oxygen and air pressure can take down perfectly healthy mountaineers.
I control the symptoms by taking some medication several times a day.
Alan Truitt is ready to step up to Mount Everest, Parkinson's disease and all. It started when he lost his sense of smell.
And then about 3.5 years ago, I noticed when I would hold a book, my hand would start to shake. And then I noticed that my index finger on my left hand was tremoring.
What was it like when you...
Bill Maddox also has his sights set on Mount Everest Base Camp.
Did you know it was coming?
I had a small idea. I knew something was off, but I thought it was just due to the stress of my mother passing away and a business venture that went south.
We are here because we are preparing to go to Mount Everest Base Camp in exactly 31 days.
Evie Heilbrunn, a cancer survivor, is also dealing with Parkinson's. Despite the disease, Evie, Bill, and Alan have decided to climb to Mount Everest Base Camp at 17,600 feet, almost 5,400 meters. They're doing it not only to test their own limitations, but to raise awareness for a project that could conquer Parkinson's disease itself.
From a cup, so why don't you just go ahead and take a seat over here if you can.
Nurse practitioner Sherry Gould is a clinician here at Scripps Clinic in La Jolla, California. Today, one of her patients is in for a routine checkup. Her Parkinson's having advanced to the point where she's dealing with a lot of involuntary movement.
If I can get some water.
I'm in and out of bed for an hour and a half like this.
You've been out of bed, in and out of bed, did you say?
Yeah, every night.
Are you serious? All night long? In the middle of the night, that's what you're doing?
Now it's starting to go like that. It used to be once I got it calmed down, I'd sleep, you know, through the night, I'd go to the bathroom.
Right.
But
right. Not anymore.
No.
It's not, even at night. You
Even
cannot
at
get a
night.
good night's sleep?
Right.
What about if...
Sherry prescribes a medicine that should help her with sleep.
Okay?
Okay.
Because you got to get sleep at night. You
I know, I feel...
That's horrible. You must be exhausted, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
When you want to do a double-blind control, then you...
Sherry works closely with neurologist Dr. Melissa Hauser, who's the director of the Parkinson's Disease and Movement Disorder Center at the Scripps Clinic. Now they're collaborating with Dr. Jean Loring at the nearby Scripps Research Institute, where cutting-edge research is underway using non-embryonic stem cells to bring relief to those suffering from Parkinson's disease. But this research costs money, and creating these new therapies for Parkinson's disease will cost millions.
In 2010, Sherry Gould, my nurse practitioner, called me and said that she had an excellent idea. And I said, another one. And she said, yes, I want to climb Kilimanjaro as a fundraising activity for our stem cell research.
And in that moment, a group of people whose lives were altered by Parkinson's would find themselves on an entirely new and unexpected adventure.
Go into the room right to the right there, please.
Okay. Do I just walk in the room?
Yeah, just walk into the room. You can go into it on your own.
People with Parkinson's disease, for reasons that are not entirely clear, are suffering from the death of brain neurons that supply the body with an important chemical called dopamine, vital for signaling muscle movement. Without enough dopamine, things started to go slowly awry for Cassandra Peters.
It started with a tremor in my left hand and arm, but even before the tremor showed up, I was very depressed, which was not at all like me. I'd come home from work, I'd, choke down something for dinner, and I'd lay down on the couch and I just wouldn't get up. And after several months of this, my husband said, something is wrong. And it was about that time that the tremor showed up.
Parkinson's disease almost uniformly progresses. It doesn't reduce life expectancy necessarily if well taken care of, but the symptoms get worse with time.
Dr. Hauser eventually gave Cassandra her diagnosis of Parkinson's disease.
well, at that point I burst into tears, but there had been some question as to whether or not I had Parkinson's, and it was sort of anticlimactic. I think I knew in my heart probably from the very beginning that this was coming, but that was sort of the, you know, the final word, and I felt like the sword of Damocles had been hanging over my head, and poof, came down and effectively sliced me right out of the life that I had and the direction I was moving in.
I wouldn't say that I've given up any of my activities, but it's something that's back there. It's always in the back of my mind that I have this condition, and that one of these days I may have to give something up, and I don't know what. To me, it's kind of like the Forrest Gump movie with the box of chocolates. You never know exactly what you're going to get.
The disease is progressive, and there's no cure, but there are treatments. This research began in Dr. Loring's lab in late 2012 with a plan to get FDA approval for the therapy within 2 to 3 years.
I mean, it seems like magic, but it is science. We take the cells from somebody's skin, just a tiny little biopsy. It doesn't even leave a scar. And then we grow those cells in the culture dish for, in about a month or so. We grow them, they divide, and we get lots of them. Those are called dermal fibroblasts. And then we take those fibroblasts and treat them with some chemicals that turn them into induced pluripotent stem cells. The great thing about pluripotent stem cells is that they can give rise to any cell type in the body.
And in this lab, those stem cells can be transformed into just what the brain of a Parkinson's patient needs.
They're called dopamine neurons. And we have worked out ways to turn these patient-specific cells, they have the same DNA in them as the person that we got the cells from, and we plan to transplant eventually those cells that we've made into dopamine neurons back to exactly the same patients. And that way, we don't expect the cells to be rejected. We think they'll have the best possible chance to work.
8 patients have already been selected for the first trials. Skin samples have been taken and successfully transformed into dopamine-producing neurons. Funding needs have been modest up to this point.
And then we have the issue of convincing the FDA and making a partnership really with the FDA to come up with a trial that they feel is appropriate. And again, that's expensive. So part of this is fundraising. In fact, a big part of it is. We're not a pharmaceutical company, and we're not funded by any of the normal funding agencies. This is really patient-driven. So this will cost us a fair amount of money.
Yeah, we're going. Everybody, let's go.
Nurse practitioner Sherry Gould has always been an enthusiastic hiker. Her passion for the outdoors and her passion for this stem cell research led to a fusion of the two and the creation of the grassroots fundraising organization Summit for Stem Cell.
Everest is a huge adventure, but not as huge as the purpose behind the trip itself, to me personally. There are things that happen in one's life that sometimes you can't exactly explain what has led you to commit your life in such a huge way. You think about having children, and that is kind of a natural, most incredible thing. My 3 children, and being a mom has been huge, but Summit for Stem Cell, and the reason it began and the reason it continues is for a reason I can't exactly explain. It's driven internally. It's like it was meant to be.
Summit for Stem Cell started fundraising with local hikes and walkathons in the San Diego area.
This is a really significant hike because this is our kickoff hike for Base Camp of Mount Everest. That's going to happen in October. So we're super excited about that. And
to break through the background noise of the multitudes of worthy local walkathons and charitable events, Sherry came up with a big name. Kilimanjaro, Africa's tallest peak. The hike was scheduled for September 2011, and Parkinson's patients were signing up to go along, including Brad Ahrens, who found out in 2002 that he had the disease.
And I just knew that something wasn't right, but I didn't know what it was.
Brad's wife Carolyn and daughter Heidi decided to make the trek a family affair.
We did. In 2011, September, the 3 of us, my husband, Brad, Heidi, and I, we climbed Kilimanjaro. It was a pretty exciting trip to be a part of. It was exciting because the research was just beginning. It was just now a known fact that the reason there wasn't any research for Parkinson's was mainly for money. And so this was a beginning endeavor, a grassroots adventure for patients to get involved with their own fundraising.
The last step, reaching to the top of Kilimanjaro, was the most incredible thing I've experienced. We got there at sunrise and the sun came up, the sky was completely orange. We were so far above the clouds and literally it felt like you're halfway to heaven. And being there in that moment and getting to a point where we've achieved what we came there to do, there's just so few words to describe that, but it was a sense of community that we fought and trained, and there was nothing that got in our way of getting to the top. And we are embarking on that yet again, the second time around, and this time it'll be at Everest Base Camp.
When I stepped to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, I literally said, oh my God, nothing is impossible. And I think that this project is about that. Nothing is impossible.
All these efforts raised about $1 million for the patient-specific stem cell research at Scripps. But a lot more money will be needed as the research goes into high gear and for the actual dopamine neuron transplants back into the original 8 patients.
I think it's going to work. I mean, all the elements are in place. And having the patients there is really motivating, not just for me, but for the people who work in the lab who actually do the cell culture. They love having the patients visit. They love explaining to the patients what we're doing. We love showing the patients their own cells in a culture dish. And it's a really positive energy that we get from them. And that really does help the scientific research. We don't do research in a vacuum.
The selection process for the first 8 patients to get the eventual brain cell transplants was understandably rigorous. Cassandra made the cut.
And I am over the moon to participate. I feel like an astronaut. I feel like one of the early astronauts. I get to do it first. It's everything. It's wonderful.
It was ecstatic for me and for Cassandra. We were on the Parkinson's disease walk, and I told her she had been selected, and she dropped to her knees. I think she kissed the ground, or maybe she kissed God, I'm not sure which, but it was a really heart-lifting experience.
And she said, "You are one of the participants. You've been chosen." And then she said, "Didn't I pick the perfect place to tell you?" She did. She absolutely did. So I jump up and down, screamed and yelled. And my husband saw me from across the lawn, and he came running over, and he started jumping up and down and yelling too. So suffice to say, we were over the moon to participate.
What mountain was that?
As the October 2013 trek to Everest Base Camp approaches, the team ramps up the training with a trip to the eastern Sierras of California.
We are on the Mount Whitney Trail, headed up to the Mount Whitney Lake for an official high-altitude training hike. We have 9 people on our team today, all part of Summit for Stem Cell, and we are doing fabulous.
Alan Truitt planned this hike, and he's challenging his Parkinson's along with Bill Maddox and Evie Heilbrunn.
We are doing this because we can, and we're doing it because it's a tremendous challenge for all of us, and some of us in particular, and just want to show you guys that we can do it. We can push ourselves beyond our own limitations, and I'm going to get up there today, and then I'm going to get up there to base camp in 40 some odd days. So, psych.
As a team, we needed to test our bodies for the high altitudes in the Himalayas. Much of this day's hike is above 10,000 feet, 3,000 meters, and we'll be at that altitude in Nepal for over 3 weeks. Finally, the team arrives at Kearsarge Pass.
Holy crap!
With spectacular views from 11,760 feet, over 3,500 meters.
That's right. And why are you doing this crazy hike, I ask you?
to Everest Base Camp? Because 18 months ago, I couldn't even walk. I crawled. And look at me now.
Look at you now.
Oh my God.
And what will this Everest Base Camp hike do for you?
It will be the culmination of a recovery from 15 years of being sick. And it will be an accomplishment that I never in my whole life ever thought I could do.
The team arrives in Kathmandu, Nepal.
Great. Did we get enough?
Oh my God, it's delicious. Absolutely.
Good. Because this may be your last trip here.
We're in the capable hands of veteran guide Vern Tejas, who's been to the summit of Everest 10 times. He's joined by his equally formidably fit wife, Carol. These two got married on a mountaintop in Antarctica. For now, we stay in the relative comfort of the Yak and Yeti Hotel. That will change soon enough, though, because Vern and Carol's carefully laid out plan is about to be altered by the approach of a tropical typhoon.
We are a long ways from the coast, but it only takes a day or two once it hits the coast, before it starts affecting the Himalayas. So Carol and I have been up more times than we need to last night, trying to think of some options for us. And as we kicked around with you the other day was whether or not we could fly in a helicopter if we could fly in a fixed one.
Mother-daughter team Carolyn and Heidi Ahrens continue to prep for bad weather. They made the 2011 trip to Kilimanjaro with husband Brad, but he's not making this trip. This time they're doing it for him, and like everyone else, they're preparing for rain.
Anything that has to do with water, we want to make sure we're a little bit on the high side with because of the storm coming in. Okay?
Can you guys hear us down there? Okay.
Good.
Even with the help of the Sherpas and porters, we have to consider the weight of the backpacks, and that means making some tough decisions about underwear.
That's fine if you like that. You can go with more as long as you're within the weight place, okay? I, myself, one pair the whole time.
Ah, there you go.
And I don't wash them.
Even if they get soaking wet.
The team makes its way to the airport for the hour-long helicopter flight to Lukla. I'm a lifelong pilot and had a moment to reflect on the relative dangers of helicopter flights in mountainous terrain and difficult weather.
Talk about the fact that the most dangerous part of the flight used to be getting to the airport, and now it's maybe not.
Within minutes, the Summit for Stem Cell team is toasting their safe flight in a Lukla tea house.
Milk tea. Milk tea. Cheers, honey. Cheers. Cheers. We did it. We're here safe and sound. That's the most important thing. Amazing.
My first ever helicopter ride.
Skimming mountaintops.
After our first overnight in Lukla at this altitude, over 9,000 feet, about 2,700 meters, the team is ready to push uphill, starting the long trek to Everest Base Camp. As predicted, the remnants of the tropical storm serve up a 4-day-long drenching. For veteran guide and mountaineer Vern Tejas, none of this is particularly challenging, and he entertains himself with endless noodling on a guitar. Just outside Lukla, we do our best to ignore the rain, which turns out not to be that hard, as the incredible Buddhist-infused culture and the mountain scenery of this part of Nepal roll past along the trail. The trail is well worn, but it's rocky and a potential source of disaster. Turning an ankle on a rain-slickened rock or a muddy slope could be a trip ender. And by its very nature, the trail forces the team to expend a lot of energy, because as often as progress is made going uphill, the trail goes right back down, and the hard-won altitude has to be gained all over again. As Vern said, there are mountains in the way. And it's not just tourists, locals, and trekkers on this trail. There are no wheels in the Khumbu region of Nepal. The Himalayan form of truck traffic? Endless trains of pack animals lugging supplies up and down the mountain valleys. After a long day's slog up and downhill in the rain, the team arrives in Phak Ding for an overnight stay, and Vern trades the guitar for a harmonica.
The valleys that we're trekking through are magical, spiritual, and just a blessing to be here without a doubt.
How's your dad?
Dad is doing really good. He's doing really good. I keep looking over there, but he's doing really good. He's plugging right along, and I'm proud of him.
We're ready, more than ready for day 2.
A new day brings a serious challenge. Gaining about 3,000 feet, 1,000 meters in altitude, on the trek to Namche Bazaar in the rain.
It's not as rainy as I thought it was going to be. I'm really happy about that.
You stoked about the hike?
Dry. Okay. Wet. I'm still a little
Ready to
dry.
rock and roll.
It's a big day. A little nervous. Won't be too bad until we hit that big hill.
And little bits of life in the Himalayas drift past. The runoff from the tropical storm pours off the mountainsides, and in some places becomes more of a nuisance than the rain itself. Suspended footbridges are a spectacular necessity. Sometimes one side of the valley becomes a cliff. These bridges are something we never really got used to. Here at Namche Bazaar, the team is at 11,280 feet, about 3,400 meters. The altitude is apparent in the snowline, and we are definitely feeling it in our lungs.
Slow and steady, guys. It's all uphill here.
The team is staying 2 nights here, and it's for good reason: altitude acclimatization. Without getting used to this thinner air, advancing to a higher altitude presents a greater risk for deadly altitude sickness. Vern Tejas offers us a training hike.
Not to crank your chain too hard, but if you're feeling energetic, we go up that ridge, go across what looked like it'd be underneath Kabuya, but it's much further back, along the edge of the airport, which is on that ridge, and then come back down into town.
Oh my God!
That would be
beautiful.
It's a nice hike.
Everyone is breathing hard on the uphill climb, but the hard work rewards with a view.
Oh. Isn't that something? Oh. This is unbelievable. It's more spectacular in person than I ever thought it would be.
And that one, so
seeing pictures and pictures and pictures, and heard people tell me about it, but this is like nothing else I've ever seen.
A short distance uphill again, and finally we see our goal, Mount Everest.
That's Mount Everest!
Right
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. That's it! Oh my God! We're seeing Mount Everest, can you believe it? Oh my God, it's beautiful. Oh
It's God's work. It's pretty amazing. Can't believe we're here after all that training. Just feel fortunate to be personally involved with the cutting edge technology and the therapy that will not only benefit me, but people with Parkinson's throughout the rest of the world.
The 3 Parkinson's patients get their picture taken with their mountain and their nurse practitioner who talked them into coming here.
That's right. You climb your biggest Everest.
One step at a time.
That's right. One step at a time. That's what we know.
The 2-day acclimatization stop here in Namche Bazaar and the day hikes that go with it prove beneficial for Alan Truitt.
But, you know, it's just one of those things, everybody's got something, but like Sherry was saying for me, you know, going up that hill yesterday, going down these rocks, my balance is great, my strength is good, and you know, I've got a pretty routine workout schedule. You see some people that have Parkinson's, and you look at them and you go, so what are you doing for exercise? And they go, it's too late to start now. And I'm like, but I've, you know, always tried to stay in some kind of physical activity, so it wasn't really hard for me to like shift gears. I just said, well, maybe I better pump it up a little bit. And the big thing for me was there were days when if I was just too tired or, you know, not feeling good, I'd go, yeah, I'm sleeping in today. Now I don't do that.
Toward the end of today's hike, we pass Buddhist prayer wheels. Each revolution releases the prayer or mantra, releasing the blessings into the world.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
No syrup on yours?
Yeah.
Come here, in.
That's good.
The team marches on to the cadence of Vern's guitar plucking. Although the terrain here looks flat, we're on schedule to gain about 2,000 feet, 600 meters. The bandanas that Bob, Alan, and Heidi are wearing, and the rest of us probably should be wearing, aren't for protection against the cold. It's to protect us from the yaks. Or to be blunt, from the yak dung. They call it the Khumbu crud. Depending upon who's doing the telling, it's either dysentery or a chronic cough or maybe both, and it affects nearly everyone that shares this narrow trail with the pack animals. The Khumbu crud could partly be due to dry air, but the yak droppings harbor pathogens and it turns to dust and there's no way to avoid breathing it. The team is now approaching the tree line and the snow line here at Pangboche at around 13,000 feet, 4,000 meters. It's beginning to really feel like the Himalayas, and we can now once again see Mount Everest in the distance.
It's another place I never thought I'd be looking at Mount Everest. And looking at it while we're trying to fight for a cure for Parkinson's disease.
I keep pinching myself to make sure I'm not in a dream.
So true.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
A crucial part of the stop here in Pangboche for all trekkers is also a moving and spiritual moment. A blessing from Buddhist monk Lama Gishi. The tradition starts with wrapping an offering in a prayer cloth, or kata. Our guide, Vern Tejas, is a veteran of this.
Once you present this to him, he'll shake the donation out and he'll put it over the back of your neck. That's why it's a good thing to have your hats off. Okay, so when we go in, the other thing that's going to happen, so if you can get it in sort of this kind of fashion, where you're going to give it to him like this, he knows to shake it that way, and then he's going to put it over your shoulders.
So just about every climber that we know will stop here on the way to Everest and be blessed by this guy.
Lama Gishi is now in his 80s and is one of the highest ranked lamas in the region. He had a stroke a few years ago, but has recovered enough to continue his blessings of the trekkers and those hoping to safely summit Mount Everest. One by one, we each step forward for our own blessing. Lama Gishi begins a prayer to ensure that all of us have a safe return to our homes.
Because I've been very impressed with the openness of the spirituality of these people. They're very open about the religion. I mean, it's everywhere. It just felt so special. When I reached down and touched foreheads with him and he was smiling, it was just, you know, you could just feel the warmth and the humanness from this guy.
You know, he proves with the way he gives his love to us that every single life is significant.
That's right.
And that every journey is important. And every hill and mountain that we're climbing and every little bit of suffering, it's all important.
Ain't no, how's that song go? Long enough, you know?
Ain't no river wide enough.
Wide enough.
To keep me from you.
Yeah, and to keep us from making that research successful. Whether we have to climb these humongous peaks, but it's all working towards the same end. And somehow it just fits beautifully.
Over cashews and cookies and endless cups of ginger tea, and under a warm, high-altitude sun, the conversation turns to the Spartan accommodations.
What's it like over there? Is that what you're saying?
It's good. I mean, the hot tub could be a wee bit bigger, but
Jets are a little weak.
jets are a little weak.
Have you got a sit-down toilet?
Yeah, right.
I haven't looked.
It's not completely primitive here. There's central heating in the tea house, fueled with dried yak dung. And the person stoking the fire is also our cook.
Make sure you...
The next morning, those same yaks perform another service, hauling the heaviest bulk of the team's gear off to the next stop up the mountain.
Okay, are you familiar with the song, Kathmandu?
The next day, Bill Maddox finds his inner songwriting talents, although we know he's still searching for his inner singer. He's got an idea for a tune that fits the mission.
And then a cowbell, and then you go, Kathmandu, I think I'm going to Kathmandu. I think it's really where I'm going to. Hey, if I ever get out of here, that's what I'm going to do. We're Summit for Stem Cell, and we're on a quest. We're going to Mount Everest, non-embryonic stem cell therapy, an amazing technology. There's hope for you and me, and that's how it's going to be, so donate to help us, please. Kathmandu, that's what I'm going to do.
Someone else's problem. Yeah.
The team stops at the Himalayan Rescue Clinic in Parachet to hear a lecture about altitude sickness. There's no mincing words about this. Death can arrive quickly and unexpectedly.
They go walking, and pretty soon they're like, oh man, I'm so tired, I'm just going to take a little nap right here on the side of the trail. And then they sit there and they slowly go into a coma.
Spirits are high and everyone is feeling the altitude, but Evie Heilbrunn is having the most difficulty. As the trek continues, the scenery is getting beyond spectacular, but the danger is increasing. The team is over 15,000 feet, 4,500 meters above sea level, and the oxygen density is approaching roughly half of what we're used to. The villages with way stations and tea houses continue to shrink. Dukla is barely more than a couple of buildings at considerable altitude.
15,100 feet up in the sky.
The team gets some relaxation time and some valuable altitude acclimatization. And a chance to think about cultural and material differences, because let's face it, we Westerners can be a fussy bunch.
All right, so just in case anybody thought we were soft, I want to introduce you to our bathrooms. This is the toilet, and you can see that this is where the paper goes. This is the bucket that rinses, and there's the bucket that moves the water from the bucket to the toilet, and of course, the ventilation system.
And he does, and he does think that he will be able to, receive this in his lifetime.
Carol and Aaron's got a good night's sleep, No headache for a change, and she's had a chance to talk to her husband Brad via the internet here at Dukla. Brad's Parkinson's disease kept him home.
He was one of the strongest hikers when we did Kilimanjaro 2 years ago. But his Parkinson's is catching up, and it would have made this trip impossible.
Next time?
Well, we'll see. You know, maybe there'll be a next time for him when he's able to get this procedure and have some of the symptoms reversed. You know, part of him getting his life back would be to be able to do trips like this, because he's very fit and he's very active, and this is the kind of lifestyle he used to enjoy.
The team prepares to push out of Dukla at over 15,000 feet, 4,500 meters. Evie hasn't slept well, if at all. Her altitude symptoms are getting harder to ignore.
Now, someone carrying your pack for you?
Yeah. Here, let me try real quick.
Time to hit the trail. Happy trail. I'm ready. Johnny ho!
Johnny ho, let's go!
As the team moves out, trees and vegetation have been replaced by rocks, ice, and snow. Evie is being watched closely. Bill Maddox, who has the most visible Parkinson's symptoms, is incredibly strong and just keeps plugging along. Several hours later, we reach La Bouche, just one more overnight away from Everest Base Camp.
16,100.
Oh, yeah!
Evie is elated to have made it this far, because last night she thought she'd have to quit.
Rose worship, and then we launched from there.
So when did Buddha come through here? What the shade? Yeah, you better get one in the ball. I think, you know how breathing is really important for meditation? They always take focus on the breath. At altitude, you have to focus on the breath.
Since nearly everyone has some sort of respiratory symptoms, Nurse Heidi Ahrens has a lunchtime lesson to pass along.
So the best way to sneeze to prevent contaminating your hands, sneeze or cough is in your elbow. 1, 2, 3.
Bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you.
The humor of the moment gives way to concern. Evie's blood oxygen levels are low. Sherry and Vern coach her to use pressure breathing, which can raise blood oxygen levels.
95, we walk away with this. 95, and you can stop breathing. Okay, we're almost there. Do it. 95, do I hear 95? We're out there, 95, 94, 94 going once. 94 going twice. 95 it is! Okay, so.
Give me 5, Evie! Woo! 95!
With Evie's problem temporarily stabilized, the team gets back to honoring a tradition here at the lodge at La Bouche. Signing and hanging a Summit for Stem Cell t-shirt alongside mementos from other trekkers. Getting the signatures was the easy part. Finding a spot on the ceiling and getting the t-shirt to stick, well, this proved to be a bit more challenging.
Thank you!
Jun Kali!
Well, bottom line is I'm just not going to go on.
The next morning, Evie is in trouble. A pounding headache and breathlessness kept her awake most of the night.
I had to pressure breathe most of the night because I was panting. And I've come so far health-wise with other things. I'm scared to go on. I don't want to go up there and get into trouble and not be in a position to get down fast enough to take care of myself.
I understand.
So.
Everyone on the trek has a hiking partner. Evie's partner is Rick Whipple. The consensus is that a porter and Rick would immediately accompany Evie to a lower altitude.
Okay. I think you're going to see her get pretty happy when she gets down there and gets more oxygen. Okay. Okay? All right.
Rick, thanks so much.
Thanks, sir, for taking one for the team. I appreciate that. Sure. I know you wanted to go up as well. Yeah.
I've beaten so many things.
Well, and you have certainly seen the beauty.
I've trekked in the Himalayas.
I know.
Who can say they've done that in their lifetime?
And the beauty and the gorgeous days have been amazing. They've been beautiful.
I know. And I mean, I wish I could be there with you guys, but
It's the wisest decision for you.
I'm not unhappy, really, because it's the best decision for me.
And she'll be going down, and Rick is going to accompany her. And I want to thank both of them for thinking not only about their own personal health, but the success of the team. So, Rick, thank you for going down. I do appreciate that.
Good job. Safe travel.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you, Rick.
Drink, breathe, eat. What could be worse?
Over another ridge, and the last bit of civilization looms ahead, the tiny settlement of Gorikshep.
I think I can hardly wait to get down there and have some tea.
So, job well done, guys. This is our high point for sleeping. And if you can make it through tonight, you probably make the rest of the trip without much problem.
Base Camp of Everest!
Bob, what are you getting ready for?
Well, we started this whole thing for about April. We're headed for Everest Base Camp. We're about 3 or 4 hours away from reaching our goal.
Everest Base Camp, here we come.
Heidi, you ready for this?
Everest Base Camp! Here we come!
Home away from home. I spend more time there than anywhere else in the world.
Yes, sir. How are you?
You ready for base camp?
Yes, yes.
So the final uphill trek begins, and for Adam Truitt, it's more than just a record. It's personal.
For my dad. For my dad.
The goal is so close now, and we stop to photograph the otherworldly scenery, and the celebrating starts early. Two hours later, a rocky plateau at 17,600 feet, 5,400 meters. It's our goal, Everest Base Camp.
We did it. Congratulations.
That wasn't nearly as hard to get to the destination, was it?
No.
Oh my God.
It's amazing the strength of the human spirit. And it is that shines through so clearly in these people with Parkinson's disease that are able to do these amazing, phenomenal hikes. I have to say from the bottom of my heart and the absolute bottom of my soul that I wholeheartedly believe in this research, and I don't see why it won't work.
I need somebody to take a picture with my cell phone.
Yeah, okay.
Alan's been a friend for 40 years. He had his own medical issues. We've all been up and down with colds and travelers, diarrhea and whatnot. And to see him stick it out just reaffirms my belief in what a man he is, what true grit he has.
I think my Parkinson's probably just gave me more of the drive, knowing that I needed to do this not just for myself, not just for the team, but for the Summit for Stem Cell Project. I think every day it wasn't just a matter of knowing that the mountain was out there, and that's why we were training, but knowing that if we wanted to achieve our goal of funding this research project, we had to call attention to it via the expedition, and hopefully the successful completion of the expedition. And I think we did.
My personal goals were just to get the job done, to do what we said we were going to do, and that was to climb to Mount Everest Base Camp. And that's kind of what it was for me. I mean, I've done a marathon, and my goal then was to not win the race, but just to finish it, and not be too whiny about it. Just get her done.
You know, in a perfect world, we complete our goal, which is finish this trip, get home, do more media, get the movie done, and, you know, as Alan and Adam said earlier today, some uncle who's got a cousin who's got a guy with a couple $1 million pops a check, the project goes, the rat studies are successful, the transplants in the 8 patients are done, the symptoms of Parkinson's are abated, the clinical trials start, and Parkinson's goes the way of polio. Poof. Just another piece of history in, you know, the successful joining of science and medicine.
Summer stem cell! Woohoo!
We made it, Summer for Stem Cell. Yes!
Yeah!
Woohoo! We'll be successful.
Yes! Nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathmandu. I think I'm going to Kathmandu. I think it's really where I'm going to. Hey, if I ever get out of here, that's what I'm gonna do. Summit forced themselves on a quest. Now we're climbing on Mount Everest. Non-embryonic stem cell therapy is an amazing technology. If I ever get out of here, that's what I'm going to do. Now there's hope for you and me. We can beat PD. So donate to help us find a cure and live a better life. Kathmandu. That's what I'm really gonna do. Kathmandu. Kathmandu.